And today we have a great show on our Real Estate Hour with Mr. Robert Ortega with Sunrise Dream Realty, and a very dynamic individual sharing with us an incredible story about the unfortunate he was very unfortunate to not have the best team behind him at that time, and created a very sticky situation with a very high-end person as a USC director, was it, Robert?
Medical director. He's up there, yeah, for sure. So where I left off was raining on Dr. Jeff's parade, letting him know, wait a minute.
You have to bear the bad news.
The bearer of bad news.
That after it was supposedly, if you didn't get, let me refresh in case you just came in. Basically, he as a real estate professional, one of the best calls you can make is, ta-da, you are closed.
Oh,
yay, celebration. So Robert got to make that call. Lo and behold, he got another call to say, oh, I'm sorry, it isn't closed. Because, well, we closed it, but without the funds required to close. Why is that a problem, Robert?
Well, I think Dr. Jeff Thacker, big problem for him because he needs the money in order to buy his beautiful home over there in Pasadena, overlooking the Rose Bowl.
Yeah.
So
yeah, taking notes against the Bruins to find out what their trick plays were.
Gosh, well, going back, and I'm over here reliving it here, and just. It's quite a call. Some of these calls you like, gosh, you really don't want to make, but this is who you are. You're a professional. So made the call, very disappointed, and next thing you know, there's a big time meeting, at the real estate office, right? So Dr. Jeff's there. We have his USC legal team there.
Nice. Never a good thing.
Never a good thing.
No.
We have the owners and the escrow officers and the important people for the escrow company, and the same for the real estate company. So bottom line is that they essentially dictated what's going to happen. They need their money. They need their interest, and you better make it happen and quickly. So thank God, we're with the title company who was decent and actually performed and actually paid on the sale, so
wow.
which is one important reason why you use a professional who has the backing of a title company. And
the right title company. You just mentioned that if it wasn't the right title company, this may not have been a happy ending.
Well, it was a lot of different parties who were at fault. So long story short, Dr. Jeff Thacker got his money. All right. The legal team was there. They drew something out. So they signed all the documents. At closing, Dr. Jeff said bye, and he stood up, shook my hand. He goes, Robert, he goes, I like you. You're a professional. You're a good guy. You're with the wrong team.
That had to hurt.
And he left, And that kind of resonated on me for a long, long time. Well, not too long, because about 45 days afterwards, I did move my business to another brokerage, and I've been happy ever since.
And well, that gives good reason. I've watched you over the last few months, posturing to make sure you had the best team going. You even asked us,
Sure.
who is the best escrow company that I should work with, and it was very easy for us to, share with you our co-host, Steve Korn with Newhall Escrow. The guy's the man. He knows his business. He knows his stuff, and he always stands behind his word and what he needs to do.
Yeah, and you know what's important about the right team? It's what I think is absolutely critical about the right team. You don't need a great team for when everything goes well. You need a great team for when everything gets hard, right? That's the reality is, even in sporting, right? When you're up 12-0, really at that point it doesn't matter. Obviously you had to get there at some point, but it's really when it's down to it.
You're talking baseball, I hope.
Yeah. when it's down to it, and it's the end, and everything needs to happen, and everything needs to happen in a certain order, that's when you need the right players. And being in this particular small bubble that I call it that we live in, we know who the right players are. And it's really nice to work with professionals that are the right players because things are going to get done. And so now you've made a couple of moves and you have the right team behind you, right?
100%. You guys are one of them, obviously. And
oh, thank you for that. We appreciate that opportunity.
That's my plug for the day.
Yeah.
But with that being said, I mean that's just who you are. I mean, good people hang around with other good people. Professionals hang around with other professionals.
Well, I know when you're working with a professional, somebody you know and trust, you have different conversations, meaning you can have the hard conversation. You can make sure that you're on the same page. It means you have strategy meetings. We've already had quite a few already, Robert. I mean, we're strategizing on how we want to communicate, how we take care of our clients better, how do we raise the bar, how do we exceed their expectations and make sure that they have a great experience and want to come back to us and want to refer their friends and family. And we want that referral not just for the dollar, it's so we can make sure they get sound advice, because I know Gino's my biggest goal is we want to do every loan out here because we know we'll give them sound advice. They will not get bad advice. And I know, Robert, you're the same way. Go, please give me the opportunity to help you with your real estate transaction, because I'll make sure that there won't be surprises. You will be well taken care of from a professional, and you'll get you'll help them with their goals. You ask those questions. I mean, you go in depth about their questions. You were pretty hardcore when we had our interview about the questions you ask.
Oh, 100%. Well, I've heard or I've read that a person well taken care of is worth $10,000 worth in advertisement.
I agree.
100%.
I totally.
You're still in his word now.
I totally believe in that. I totally believe in that. And how do you understand what they're looking for? And you need to ask enough questions. I think a good salesperson asks the right questions and enough of them, so that way you can kind of see you kind of gauge and where they're at, what they're looking for, what they want and what they can really afford, or trying to package their transaction together, line them up with the right people, so that way they can make the right decision. And by them making the right decision through education, through being with the right people, choosing the right agent, choosing the right lender, choosing the right professionals in their respective fields, is going to make the biggest difference in the world.
Well, I know a big piece for you is education. You're actually a big-time educator. You've been a lot of times the trainer at the real estate offices you're working for. You've been a trainer for the board of realtors. You provide information, stats, numbers, educational pieces, more than just the typical person. So you study your craft.
Yes, 100%. 100% I do. And the reason why is because when you're sitting down with that customer, and you're going to be selling their $400,000 house, and you're asking for a $35,000 commission, right? And why them paying that would benefit them, not only during the sale but in the long run, makes all the difference. And they know, whenever you sit down with a professional, you know who you're dealing with. They say very, very minimal, but sometimes it's just the presence of being there. You know who you're dealing with. You know who your customer is. You know who's representing you in the sale. You know who's doing your loan. You know who's doing your escrow. And based on these questions that I do ask, and I do get in depth, and it's not to get too personal, but the more information I can get from them, the easier it is for me, so that way I can guide them in the right direction, and easy for them, so that way they can make the right decision on who to choose to help them buy, help them sell, and make an investment. And usually this is one of the biggest investments of their life. Who are you going to trust?
We agree. Well, we think you should trust Mr. Robert Ortega with Sunrise Dream Realty right here on the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show. And Robert's been sharing with us some of the questions that you need to ask, some of the things you need to look for in a real professional, some things you need to look for in the team behind you. It's imperative that you have a strong team behind you. It's not all about just the person you're working with. I know our team at Cherry Creek Mortgage is the best of the best. We've hired the best people I know and I have worked with for over 25 years. I work with the best in Gino Franti, my co-host here. The man is a magician with making sure you get the best options available. And Robert works with an incredible team. He's aligned himself with the best team there is, so he can make sure he accomplishes your goals. And I loved hearing that from Robert about accomplishing your goals is his main objective, and he does that by asking the right questions. So we want to play with the next subject. I love Robert informed us. He has this saying that basically says that, actually it's an article, the truth about advertising and why it doesn't work. And you thought it was all about advertising when you sell your home. Well, let's find out when we come back to the Don and Gino Real Estate and Finance Show on your hometown station, AM 1220, KHTS.